The story of Roy Benavidez sounds like a movie. He charged alone to the front lines. He was shot, stabbed, and beaten, sustained 37 wounds. Enemies surrounded him, yet he kept fighting. This is the story of a man's man, one of the most insane moments of heroism in US military history. So, who is Roy Benavidez? Born in Texas, Roy Benavidez lost both his parents by age 7. At 15, he dropped out of school, worked as a child laborer just so he could feed his family. Soon, he joined the army. For Roy Benavidez, the army was not a calling, it was an escape. Once, on a patrol in Vietnam in 1965, Roy Benavidez stepped on a landmine and was paralyzed. Doctors gave up on him, told him he would never walk again. Refusing to quit, he did nightly physical training. First, he relearned to sit, then stand, and finally, to walk. To doctors, he was a madman, but to his fellow soldiers, he was a champ. And by 1968, Roy Benavidez was back in Vietnam, fully operational and ready to fight. Finally, on May 2nd, 1968, in a jungle near Loc Ninh, South Vietnam, a 12-man Special Forces recon team was under attack, trapped and pinned down deep in enemy's territory. The team was heavily wounded and taking casualties fast. Their enemies, an entire North Vietnamese army regiment, was closing in. There was no time left. 3 previous rescue attempts by helicopter had already failed. The enemy gunfire was too strong. Back at base, everyone had given up. The team of Special Forces was going to be killed. Well, everyone except Roy Benavidez. From the radio room, Roy Benavidez heard everything. He had no orders, no mission, no call to action. Without orders, he grabbed a knife and medical kit and ran to the nearest helicopter that was about to leave. Armed with just a knife, Roy Benavidez was now on his way to the most dangerous firefight of the Vietnam War. The helicopter couldn't land, so Roy Benavidez jumped out mid-air and sprinted 75 yards under open fire towards the survivors. Within 10 steps, he was shot in the leg. Next, a hand grenade explosion struck him in the face. By this point, Roy Benavidez was bleeding hard, and he kept running. When he reached the stranded team, some were dead, some couldn't move, and he started dragging them one by one towards the helicopter extraction zone, all while directing airstrikes over radio and providing covering fire. He loaded survivors onto the first helicopter, but he took a hit and crashed. Then, an enemy soldier rushed him with a bayonet. Roy Benavidez killed him, but took a blade in the stomach. At this point, Roy Benavidez had been shot multiple times, stabbed, and beaten unconscious. His intestines were beginning to show from the bayonet wound. A second helicopter managed to land, and using every last inch of his strength, he loaded his wounded comrades for evacuation. He retrieved all classified materials and was the last man on, 6 hours after he jumped out with nothing but a knife. Back at base, Roy Benavidez was unresponsive, no detectable pulse, massive blood loss, and declared dead. When the field surgeon leaned in for one final check, Roy Benavidez opened his eyes and spat blood directly in the doctor's face. It was the only way he could signal he was still alive. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move, but Roy Benavidez was not going to die in a body bag. On February 24th, 1981, US President Ronald Reagan stood next to Roy Benavidez. In front of reporters, he said, "If the story of his heroism were a movie script, you would not believe it." Then, he pinned the Medal of Honor on Roy Benavidez's chest. Roy Benavidez saved 8 lives, voluntary, with no orders, armed with only a knife.